Goodness gracious, boy oh boy, do I have some incredible news for all of you. I didn't want to wait any longer to share this with you, so I decided to do a little impromptu style segment right now. I'm sure most of you already know by now, but let's run through it. Yesterday was just an incredible night for the left. It can't be overstated how big it was, because it was the first real declaration of, like, we're here, we're a force, and you're not going to placate us. You're not going to run your typical corporatist tricks on us. We're a tsunami. We're a movement. And we're not taking no for an answer. Because when you look at the opinion polls, the American people agree with us. Certainly the base of the Democratic Party agrees with us. And we should be electing people who represent us. And I'm not kidding when I say the establishment really had no clue this was coming. They were completely and utterly baffled by the results of last night. So let's run through a bunch of it. This is the Our Revolution Twitter feed here. They do a lot of, more local races, but I still just want to give you the full scope of just how solid a day it was yesterday for the left. I only saw 2 losses out of all the elections. Or I should say, I only saw 2 prominent losses out of all the elections. It was wall-to-wall victories. So, okay, here you go. A guy named Vaughn Stewart, endorsed by Our Revolution, won for the Maryland House of Delegates. Again, I told you these are the smaller races here. Gabriel Acevero won in Maryland for the House of Delegates. Angela Graham in Oklahoma for state representative. And, there's a bunch of these. To be fair, I don't even know a lot of these people because, again, these are more local races than anything else. But look at the first big one we get to here. Who's that? That is Ben Jealous. So Ben Jealous is also a Justice Democrat. He, of course, was a big-time Bernie supporter. And he's for all the right policies, Medicare for all, living wage, so on and so forth. And he won. He won for governor for Maryland, the primary. So, again, this is one of those races where the establishment lined up against him, but he cracked skulls and he won. That was a huge victory. Gigantic victory. But there was an even bigger one. Look at what we have here. Democratic Socialist wins biggest upset of 2018. We all know who that is. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. CNN says a 28-year-old Latina ousted a 10-term incumbent in New York in the most shocking upset of the political season. This is, without a doubt, the Democrats' Eric Cantor moment. So for those of you who don't know, Eric Cantor was in Republican leadership. And he got knocked off by a more populist candidate by the name of David Bratt. Nobody on the right saw that coming. In fact, that was literally unprecedented. Well, Joseph Crowley was the heir apparent to Nancy Pelosi's throne. He spoke about how he was, quote, destined for Democratic leadership. I mean, this guy is the ultimate corporatist neoliberal insider. And he was ousted by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. So take a look at some more of this stuff here. This is incredible. People for Bernie says, Joe Crowley was endorsed by Kirsten Gillibrand, Andrew Cuomo, Chuck Schumer, the Sierra Club, the Human Rights Campaign, Christine Quinn, Moms Demand Action, at least 28 unions, NARAL, Planned Parenthood, and over 100 more elected officials. And then you can see here, Daniel Marin says, from a national Democratic strategist, the Crowley team did not raise any red flags or ask allies for help with his primary. I saw tweets yesterday where reporters spoke to Democratic strategists in Washington, D.C., and I kid you not, they said, we don't expect New York 14 to be a competitive race. By the way, they were right. It wasn't competitive. But it wasn't competitive in the opposite direction that they thought it wasn't going to be competitive. She won, I think she got 57 or 58% of the vote. She kind of crushed him. I mean, this is huge. Okay. Matt Stoller says, Crowley's donors who lost tonight. Look at this list, man. Facebook, Google, BlackRock, Humana, Raytheon, Capital One. By the way, pause right here. We've already, gotten all the people who are destroying our politics. For-profit health insurance companies, banks, the military-industrial complex, Wall Street. And we're just getting started with the list. Aflac, Microsoft, Cigna, TD Bank, H&R Block, Salesforce.com, United Technology, Deloitte, Covington and Burling, Anheuser-Busch, Honeywell, Crowley donors who lost tonight, Part 2, American Bankers Association, Citigroup, UPS, T-Mobile, Altria, which is Philip Morris, Ernst & Young. This guy was just a grab bag of corruption. He was as corrupt as it gets. He was the ultimate corporatist. This is a guy who left in the middle of a debate about Wall Street regulation to raise money from Wall Street, and then he came back and voted against regulating Wall Street. He is terrible. He voted for the Iraq War. He is the most corporate of the corporate, the most establishment of the establishment. He is the ultimate insider, and he was just ousted by the ultimate outsider. And then look at this. This is from Jeff Stein. Jeff Stein says, I put this together yesterday, but look at Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's reliance on small donors versus that of the entire New York City congressional delegation, including Joe Crowley. Look at this. Gregory Meeks taking 1.3% of his money from small donors, smaller than $200. Grace Meng, 4%. I mean, the best we have, other than Ocasio-Cortez, is Gerald Nadler at 9.2%. 70% of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's money came from small donors, and again, small donors is defined as people giving under $200. If you were to count small donors as just legal individual donations, so in other words, $2,700 or less from individuals, I'm pretty sure all of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's money came from them. So look at this. The blue line is Ocasio-Cortez. That says everything right there. That says absolutely everything about this race. And look at this. Joseph Crowley raised $3.3 million. He spent $3.4. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez raised a little over $300,000. Spent $194,000. And she beat him. I can't overstate how important this is and how big this is. We're here. We're not going anywhere. This is the rise of the left. And there's only going to be more of this to come. And why did she win? She won because she's not corrupt. She would scream that through a megaphone that she wasn't corrupt. Everybody knew she wasn't corrupt. She was getting small dollar donations. They organized like crazy. By the way, Shoykat Chakrabarti was one of the original founders of Justice Democrats, along with myself and Cenk Uygur and Zach Exley. He ended up running Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's campaign, and he did a fantastic job. Justice Democrats are to thank for this. Democratic Socialists of America are to thank for this. All of these left-wing, populist left groups that were on the ground, knocking on doors, canvassing, getting the word out there. This is how we win. These really are races of people power versus money. And listen, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you guys. Oftentimes, money wins out. And that is fucking beyond depressing. But sometimes money does not win out. And sometimes people power overrides it. And this is an example of a perfect storm. This was a perfect storm where the populist candidate was able to oust just a behemoth, a political machine of a man. And by the way, I can't tell you how annoying it's been to look at so many of the establishment outlets and so many of the so-called political journalists commenting on this. I mean, Joyanne Reid tweeted, pretty sure all political journalists are doing a crash course on Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez tonight. No, first of all, you should have been doing it a long time ago. Where were you a goddamn year ago? Politico and New York Times had these articles of like, who is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez? You were supposed to fucking tell us that a year ago, you dipshits. If you were serious and you did your goddamn job, you would already know about her. You would already have reported on her. You would have already have educated everybody about her. But you didn't do it. And you didn't do it because you're biased in favor of the Democratic establishment and you're biased in favor of big money. And then you get blindsided and you're like, oh shit, there might actually be some candidates out there that care about people and represent them. So it was the organizing, it was the grassroots, it was the fighting that won this race. And Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is a superb candidate. She ran on Medicare for all, she ran on free college, she ran on a living wage, she ran on ending the wars, she ran on abolishing ICE. Bold, clear, progressive vision. And she was able to take down a political machine. She took down the entire establishment. The left took down the entire establishment. So I was near tears last night because of how important this is. It really is. I can't overstate it. I don't think the segment I'm doing here and the words I'm using are really doing it justice. Because what this does is this breathes air into the left. This breathes life into the left. Because listen, I'm of the belief we weren't doing poorly beforehand. I mean, when you look at Justice Democrats, you look at Our Revolution, you look at all these different groups fighting for left-wing change, PCCC, you name it. We were winning 40 to 50% of our races. So that's solid. But the thing is, there was no leading example. There was no clear middle finger in a prominent race. You know, if Allison Hartson pulled it out, that would have been one example of it. If Paula Jean Swearengin defeated Joe Manchin, that would have been another example of it. But let me tell you something. Even though those were Senate races and this is a House race, this is just as big as it would have been in those instances. Because Joe Crowley, again, is the heir apparent to Nancy Pelosi's throne. He's the fourth leading Democrat in the country. He was planning on being one of the top, first or second leading Democrats in the country. And now, look at him. He's unemployed. And he should be unemployed. And he's unemployed by a superb candidate who's fighting for all of the right policies that'll fix this country. It's Bernie Sanders' vision and then some. So, I'm happy. I'm proud. And I think there's a really important takeaway from this, which is never give up. Never give up, never give up, never give up, never give up, never give up. Because sometimes you're going to lose, man. Sometimes you're going to fucking lose. You know? It doesn't matter how good you are and how much you have all your ducks in a row. You're going to lose sometimes, man. You're going to lose sometimes. Tiger Woods, probably the greatest golfer ever. What does he have? 20% victory rate? So he only won 2 out of every 10 tournaments, and he's the best ever? The fuck is that? What is that? What does that show you? It's easy to lose and then get down on ourselves or say, you know what, I fucking quit this. I've had that feeling before. I'm sure all of you have had that feeling before where we're like, okay, you know what? Are we wasting time here? Is that what we're doing? Is nothing going to ever change? So let's just stop. Let's just drop the burden and move on to something else and mentally check out. That's an appealing thought sometimes. But then you guarantee that you lose. Then there's no question. Then it's a given that you lose because you're not even in the game. So the establishment will keep chugging along. You win by fighting and never giving up. Even if you lose one race, run another. If you lose 2, run a third. If you lose 3, run a fourth. It's hard. Nobody said it was going to be easy. But we can do this thing, man. We can do this thing. By the way, the 2 losses I was referencing earlier, the 2 progressive losses. Dylan Ratigan lost in his district, which is a shame because Dylan Ratigan would have been a tremendous politician. And Chelsea Manning lost. But to be honest, I don't even know if that's the worst thing in the world because she's dealing with some stuff and she probably should go deal with that stuff and get everything sorted. But anyway, over the moon happy. There's new life in the left. And this is a big moment. It's a big moment for the future of the country and the future of the Democratic Party. Because this is, what's that saying? We planted the flag in the sand. Is that what that saying is? I'm not sure. It sounds a little off. But this is us saying we're a force. The left is a force. And if the establishment thinks they're just going to run roughshod over us from now until forever, boy, do they have something else coming.